Psycho-Cybernetics, written by Maxwell Maltz, Chapter 1, The Self-Image, Your Key to a Better Life. During the past decade, a revolution has been quietly going on in the fields of psychology, psychiatry, and medicine. New theories and new concepts concerning the self have grown out of the work and findings of clinical psychologists, practicing psychiatrists, and cosmetic or so-called plastic surgeons. New methods growing out of these findings have resulted in rather dramatic changes in personality, health, and apparently even in basic abilities and talents. Chronic failures have become successful. F students have changed into straight A students within a matter of days with no extra tutoring. Shy, retiring, inhibited personalities have become happy and outgoing. Writing in the January 1959 issue of Cosmopolitan magazine, T.F. James summarizes the results obtained by various psychologists and MDs as follows. Understanding the psychology of the self can mean the difference between success and failure, love and hate, bitterness and happiness. The discovery of the real self can rescue a crumbling marriage, recreate a faltering career, transform victims of personality failure. On another plane, discovering your real self means the difference between freedom and the compulsions of conformity. The key to a better life. The most important psychological discovery of this century is the discovery of self-image. Whether we realize it or not, each of us carries about with us a mental blueprint or picturing of ourselves. It may be vague and ill-defined to our conscious gaze. In fact, it may not be consciously recognized at all. But it is there, complete down to the last detail. This self-image is our own conception of the sort of person I am. It has been built up from our own beliefs about ourselves. But most of these beliefs about ourselves have unconsciously been formed from our past experiences, our successes and failures, our humiliations, our triumphs, and the way other people have reacted to us, especially in early childhood. From all these, we mentally construct a self-image or a picture of a self. Once an idea or belief about ourselves goes into this picture, it becomes true as far as we personally are concerned. We do not question its validity, but proceed to act upon it just as if it were true. The self-image becomes a golden key to living a better life because of two important discoveries. 1. All your actions, feelings, behaviors, even your abilities are always consistent with this self-image. In short, you will act like the sort of person you conceive yourself to be. Not only this, but you literally cannot act otherwise in spite of all your conscious efforts or willpower. The man who conceives of himself to be a failure type person will find some way to fail in spite of all good intentions, or his willpower, even if opportunity is literally dumped in his lap. The person who conceives himself to be a victim of injustice, one who is just meant to suffer, will invariably find circumstances to verify his opinion. The self-image is a premise, a base, or a foundation upon which your entire personality, your behavior, and even your circumstances are built. Because of this, our experiences seem to verify and thereby strengthen our self-images, and a vicious or beneficent cycle is the case, or the case may be, is set up. For example, a schoolboy who sees himself as an F-type person, F-type student, or one who is dumb at mathematics, will invariably find his report card will bear him out. He then has proof. A young girl who has an image of herself as a sort of person nobody likes will find indeed that she is avoided in school's dance. She literally invites rejection. Her woebegone expression, her hangdog manner, her over-anxiousness to please, or perhaps her unconscious hostility towards others, towards those she anticipates will affront her, all act to drive away those whom she would attract. In the same manner, a salesman, a businessman, will also find his actual experience tends to prove his self-image is correct. Because of this objective proof, it very seldom occurs to a person that his trouble lies in his self-image or his own evaluation of himself. Tell the schoolboy he only thinks he cannot master algebra, and he will doubt your sanity. He has tried and tried, and still his report card tells the story. Tell the salesman that it is only an idea, that he cannot earn more than a certain figure, and he can prove you wrong by his order book. He knows only too well how hard he has tried and failed. Yet, as we shall see later, almost miraculous changes have occurred both in grades of students and in the earning capacity of salesmen when they were prevailed upon to change their self-image. 2. The self-image can be changed. Numerous case histories have shown that no one is too young or too old to change his self-image and thereby start to live a new life. One of the reasons it has seemed so difficult for a person to change his habits, his personality, or his way of life has been that heretofore nearly all efforts to change have been directed to the circumference of the self, so to speak, rather than to the center. Numerous patients have said to me something like the following: "You are talking about positive thinking. I've tried that before and it just doesn't work for me." However, a little questioning invariably brings out that these individuals have employed positive thinking or attempted to employ it either upon particular external circumstances or upon particular habit or character defect. I will get that job. I will be more calm and relaxed in the future. This business venture will turn out right for me, etc. But they had never thought to change their thinking of the self which has to accomplish these things. Jesus warned us about the folly of putting a patch of new material upon an old garment, or of putting new wine into old bottles. Positive thinking cannot be used effectively as a patch or a crutch to the same self-image. In fact, it is literally impossible to really think about a particular situation as long as you hold a negative concept of yourself. And numerous experiments have shown that once the concept of self is changed, other things consistent with this new concept of self are accomplished easily and without strain. One of the earliest and most convincing experiments along this line was conducted by the late Professor Lecky, one of the pioneers in self-image psychology. Lecky conceived of the personality as a system of ideas, all of which seem to be consistent with each other. Ideas which are inconsistent with the system are rejected, not believed, or not acted upon. Ideas which seem to be consistent with the system are accepted. At the very center of this system of ideas, the keystone, the base upon which all else was built, is the individual's ego ideal, his self-image, or his conception of himself. Lecky was a school teacher and had an opportunity to test his theory upon thousands of students. Lecky theorized that if a student had trouble learning a certain subject, it could be because, from the student point of view, it would be inconsistent for him to learn it. Lecky believed, however, that if you could change the student's self-conception, which underlies his viewpoint, his attitude towards the subject would change accordingly. If the student could be induced to change his self-definition, his learning ability could also change. This proved to be the case. One student who misspelled 55 words out of 100 and flunked so many subjects that he lost credit for a year became a general average of 91 the next year and became one of the best spellers in school. A boy who has dropped from one college because of poor grades entered Columbia and became a straight A student. A girl who had flunked Latin 4 times, after 3 talks with the school counselor, finished with a grade of 84. A boy who was told by a testing bureau that he had no aptitude for English won honorable mention the next year for a literary prize. The trouble with these students was not that they were dumb or lacking basic aptitudes. The trouble was an inadequate self-image. I don't have a mathematical mind. I'm just naturally a poor speller. They identified with their mistakes and failures. Instead of saying, "I failed the test," factual and descriptive, they concluded, "I am a failure." Instead of saying, "I flunked that subject," they said, "I'm a flunkout." For those who are interested in learning more about Lecky's work, I recommend securing a copy of his book, Self-Consistency, A Theory of Personality. Lecky also used the same method to cure students of such habits as nail biting and stuttering. My own files contain case histories just as convincing. The man who was so afraid of strangers that he seldom ventured out of his house, and who now makes his living as a public speaker. The salesman who had just prepared a letter of resignation because he just wasn't cut out for selling, and 6 months later was number one man on a force of 100 salesmen. The minister who was considering retirement because of nerves and the pressure of preparing a sermon a week were getting him down, and now delivers an average of 3 outside talks a week in addition to his weekly sermons, and doesn't know he has a nerve in his body.